This is CBC Here and Now.
I would like to know about our right to fresh air, about the amount of exercise per day a person is entitled to. Can a person be confined to a cell with 24-hour lighting? We know what's going on there and nothing is being done.
A cry for help. The inmate who took his own life inside Her Majesty's Penitentiary reveals what his incarceration was like.
He sent a letter to the Human Rights Commission just days before he died.
A 16-year-old died here a year ago today. He wasn't the river's first victim, but his family hopes he'll be the last. Their story coming up.
Tonight, we start with a heart-wrenching letter penned by Christopher Sutton 5 days before he took his own life. Sutton is the fourth person to die in a provincial prison in a year.
In his own words, Sutton outlined concerns he had inside Her Majesty's Penitentiary. Here Now's Ariana Kelland has a copy of the letter and she joins us now live. Ariana?
Well, you don't expect something like this from someone sitting in a prison cell. A well-researched letter to the Newfoundland and Labrador Human Rights Commission. Chris Sutton wanted to know about his rights to fresh air, rights to exercise. Then he says, please help me. This letter was found in the Commission's mailbox this morning.
Kim Mackay struggles to find the right words to describe how she felt when she found Chris Sutton's letter. It was sitting in her mailbox this morning, 5 days too late.
I'm heartsick. I'm beyond. The emotion just doesn't even address how I feel about this.
32-year-old Sutton took his own life on Saturday afternoon, alone in his cell. 5 days earlier, he wrote this letter alleging segregation at HMP is like no other. It's by far the worst punishment a person can endure in a Canadian facility.
He says, I would like to know about our right to fresh air, about the amount of exercise per day a person is entitled to. Can a person be confined to a cell with 24-hour lighting? This is a man, from what I understand, had previously attempted suicide. To my mind, this is a complete red flag.
He wanted the commission to send him information on his human rights, but he had already done his homework. I just received a copy of the United Nations Standard Minimum Rules for the Treatment of Prisoners, Sutton wrote. It's the Nelson Mandela Rules. With that, I noticed some standards and guidelines that are supposed to be mandatory while incarcerated. And here at Her Majesty's Pen, a lot of guidelines are badly broken. Mackay has the same concerns. In fact, she's been writing the Justice Department for a year, concerned about mentally ill inmates and segregation. And she says those concerns were raised even before 4 people died.
People need to start caring. This is our families. These are our children. These are parents that are lost.
Retired cop Marlene Gesso is heading an independent investigation into the deaths of Doug Neary, Samantha Piercy, Sky Martin, and now Chris Sutton, a man described as intelligent who struggled with addiction. He's being grieved by his mother and father and is being laid to rest tomorrow.
He needed serious help, yeah, and HMP wasn't the place to have him. We were sick of tired telling those guys that. We'll watch them, but I guess we never watched them enough, eh?
The hope for Sutton's family and the goal of Kim Mackay is to fulfill Chris Sutton's wishes. I'm seeking change, he wrote, a change for the people in the future who may be placed in such a tough situation.
Now, the Justice Minister is traveling today and can't answer questions. Meanwhile, the family of Chris Sutton is preparing for his funeral. They say they did not know he wrote a letter to the Commission and are finding out new details every day about the struggles he went through in the week leading up to his death. Carolyn?
Thank you, Ariana. That's Here Now's Ariana Kelland reporting live. Well, the Justice Minister isn't speaking about this story today, but the Health Minister is. Sutton's death overshadowed an announcement today about mental health. Here Now's Malone Mullen has those details.
We have made this an immediate priority. This will be completed within the year.
This is the shift, a big shift for inmates. whose healthcare ultimately falls not to the healthcare system, but to the prisons themselves. Health Minister John Haggie wants to end that, and sooner than planned.
We stated this as an aim, and it was a recommendation of the original report. There's a lot of academic work that suggests that the model for corrections is not geared to mental health particularly, and probably not to physical health. They come from different cultures, so we need to make sure we get it right, but we also need to make sure we move on it.
The announcement comes after Chris Sutton was found dead in his cell on Saturday in Her Majesty's Penitentiary. His parents told CBC News that Sutton had dealt with addiction and had said he had no one to talk to during his time in prison. Sutton had also spent up to 30 days in solitary confinement multiple times and had attempted to hang himself in his cell before. But immediate action, like adding more counselors for inmates or installing cameras in cells, won't be taken yet. Haggie says the province needs to wait for a diagnosis in the form of an independent review already underway before any treatment can be prescribed.
It sounds very unglamorous and very unleaderly, if such is a word, but it's actually the most practical thing you can do.
But they expect all inmates across the province to be looked after by doctors, not wardens, by the end of this year. Colleen Hanrahan welcomed the news. Her research on mental health care in prisons helped to inform these changes last June. Her recommendation to the province? Don't turn prisons into asylums.
The point is, how do you administer a healthcare program when you know nothing about healthcare? When your job really is to manage security within a prison.
She thinks the province is listening and doing the right thing by holding off on any immediate action. Mental health care in prisons, she said, is a complex issue, one that requires close study before solutions can be found. Haggie also expressed caution today. He doesn't want to act too soon, just in case it does more harm than good. Malone Mullen, CBC News, St. John's.
When I became unwell and entered the system, I was very lucky. I was very fortunate. I received services within 72 hours of being diagnosed.
Well, the healthcare announcement that was overshadowed was this one-year update on the Mental Health and Addictions Action Plan. The government says over the last year there has been a 35% reduction in the number of people waiting for mental health and addictions counseling across the province. The government says spending on mental health care reached $197 million this year, which is a 6.4% of the overall healthcare budget. The province plans to increase that spending to 9% by the year 2022.
Well, today marks 1 year since 16-year-old Zachary Nee drowned in Flat Rock. He was pulled under by a strong current at a popular but dangerous swimming hole. Here Now's Katie Breen met his family today. Katie, what did they say?
Well, they wish they would have known just how dangerous this river can be. At least 2 other people have died here over the years, but Zachary's family didn't realize this when he headed here with a friend, towel in hand.
We heard sirens. Like, you never ever think about it being someone you care about or know, or it never crossed my mind in any way whatsoever that it was Zachary.
He had gone into Big River, not knowing that in the days after a heavy rain, the tide gets stronger. He didn't jump in from high up like a lot of people do. He was playing it safe, because his family says he was a cautious teen who always did the right thing.
Zachary was a really good kid, and he definitely would have, if we had told him more about that place, or if he had known more about it. I mean, we have to live with that for the rest of our lives, that we can't help but wonder what could have been different, because if he had had that knowledge, I don't think he would have went there.
A life cut short, and a family left to wonder who their child would have become.
He had all kinds of talents, and he was just so sweet and kind and smart. He really had such a bright future ahead of him.
There are new signs now that warn about the water. They say Big River is not a designated swimming hole, and they tell people to be safe. Zachary's family says they know they can't stop people from going there, and they say it's important for people to keep living their lives, but they want others to know the risks and to consider them when choosing where to swim.
You're not always thinking about risks, you're just having fun, but I mean, it could just happen so quick.
Zachary would have graduated from high school this year. His family says his legacy lives on there at the school and amongst his friends. They say he lived his life to the fullest for his 16 years. They just wish he would have had longer. Reporting live for Here and Now, I'm Katie Breen in Flat Rock.
A man from Bayver living in Alberta has been charged with kidnapping. Police first responded to a call on Friday about a fight at a home just outside Fort McMurray. Then a second call came reporting that two men were seen putting another man in the trunk of a car. The victim was found and taken to hospital, and the suspects were arrested. One of them is a 46-year-old from this province who's facing a dozen charges, including kidnapping, robbery, and resisting arrest.
Still with news from the courts, a Torbay man was sentenced in court in St. John's today for assaulting a woman for the third time. 33-year-old Grant Tapper was found guilty of assaulting his ex-girlfriend. The judge noted there was a big argument between the two as broken glass and wood was found in the apartment. When the police arrived, Tapper told them he was going to drown the woman's puppies. The judge sentenced him to 9 months on all charges, and he's already served 6. Tapper has been convicted twice in the past for assaulting the same woman.
A barbecue and windy weather is to blame for this fire yesterday in Northwest River. A volunteer firefighter in the community says the back wall and deck was on fire when crews arrived, and the winds made the job of fighting it even harder. It took firefighters several hours to put it out. Well, it is time, windy yesterday.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much today, though, was it? It was just overall gorgeous.
Yeah, fabulous out there. I hope you guys got, that little chance to poke your nose out at the very least.
And it was a great day to do yoga, which happened this afternoon just outside Government House.
Today was the kickoff of a weekly yoga session on the lawn there. The new Lieutenant Governor Judy Foote was also taking part in today's workout.
A 45-minute yoga session will be held each Wednesday at 12:15 all summer long. Nice turnout there.
Oh, and I mean, they could not have had better conditions. The only thing they're missing, have you guys heard about this goat yoga? Like you do yoga with goats?
I really want to do that one.
I do too. I've been trying, we're animal lovers, right? I've been trying to make that happen. It hasn't yet, but we'll take some goats down there.
I think we've shown some video here with cats.
Cats and babies. Cat yoga. Yeah. And puppies, I think I've seen.
Yeah. Sky's the limit.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, the yoga with the babies, how relaxing that one might be, maybe for the babies. But today, what a day out there. Now, not necessarily was it a record breaker, but very, very close. And the thing is, we don't necessarily have the official numbers yet, so we may find out that there was a spike between one of the hours here. So today's high, we round this up, 28 degrees is what I'd say, but 27.9 there if we're wanting to be really detailed about it. And the record from 1944, 28.3, so it just came so close. I hope you all had a chance to get out there and enjoy some of the day. We'll ignore the record lows. So glad we were nowhere near that one. That's a record we don't want to break. You can keep it just right there. Our normal for this time of year would be around 20 for a high and around 10, so we were nearly 10 degrees above where we'd normally be. Some of the other highs around the region, certainly after yesterday being up there around 30 degrees, for Happy Valley today just 21, just still a nice day. And for Badger 27, that was another one of our warmer spots that we've been seeing. High pressure's been building in, that's why there's not much to see. Instead, we're seeing a lot of sunshine, and so it looks like a pretty good setup for tomorrow.
Go ahead, you can putt first.
He was the RNC's top dog, and former Chief Bob Johnston's retirement seemed to be hitting all the right notes.
Hey!
Until he was diagnosed with the same deadly brain tumor that killed the legendary Gord Downey.
It's like being hit by a freight train.
But Johnston, along with his wife Gloria, is determined to buck the odds.
If one person can survive or one person can live longer, doesn't mean that you can't either.
That story tomorrow on Here and Now. Well, now to Thailand. There's new video of those young soccer players and their coach trapped deep inside a cave. They're all smiles as the rescuers prepare them for a potentially dangerous attempt to reach the surface. The boys introduce themselves one by one and give traditional greetings. They're being given medical attention as needed, as well as food and thermal blankets. It's not shown in this new footage, but the 12 boys and their coach are now getting a crash course in swimming and diving because that could be their best way out. Authorities say the alternatives are to wait for the waters to recede, which could take a long time, or to find or even perhaps drill a new route out of the maze of underground caves.
Well, police in Toronto are back at a property that has been a focus in the case of an alleged serial killer, Bruce McArthur. Forensic investigators found the remains of several people in planters at the home, and police dogs searched the property earlier this year. Police are now set to dig in the ravine behind the house. McArthur was arrested in January and faces 8 charges of first-degree murder.
Belbin's grocery store in St. John's is getting a new owner. The iconic store on Kitty Vitty Road has been sold to Coleman's. The company says there won't be any big changes coming to Belbin's. It'll keep its name and storefront on Kitty Vitty Road. Aidan Coleman says he has great respect for the Belbin's brand and he wants to protect what they've so successfully built. Belbin's opened in 1943. It was started by Robert Belbin and his sons. It operated out of the front room of the family home.
Well, a major employer in Clarenville is in serious danger. Burry's shipyard has laid off almost all of its employees. It comes after the provincial government pulled a lucrative contract from the operation. Here now's Garrett Barry reports.
It's practically a ghost town here at Burry's shipyard. Dozens of employees have been laid off and only a skeleton crew remains here on site. Local politicians say they're scared that this 75-year-old operation is seeing its last days.
I would not be surprised that the fallout of the loss of this contract and the loss of business that they have had while this whole episode has been going on would not lead to their failure.
The mayor says Burry's had financial issues, but he's pointing his finger at the provincial government and their decision to end a big ferry contract.
There's something that just doesn't seem to add up there, and you have a provincial government that has been preaching the development of rural Newfoundland, so they're not practicing really what they have been preaching, and we're very, very disappointed with that.
The MV Gallipoli spent weeks at this dock for maintenance work, but after a so-called judgment error in February, the boat stalled out on water's edge. A few months later, the provincial government canceled the contract and brought the boat back to St. John's.
There was a third timeline schedule submitted, and again we went out and had a third-party review of that done, and the third party came back with significant issues with what Burry's were providing us with. So at that time we decided, we have a vessel that we needed repairs to. We weren't aware of the full extent of the damage from the slip. We've only become aware of that now, and so we had no choice but to move the vessel to New Dock.
Crocker says his department is not responsible for anybody being out of work. He says Burry's actually got more than they were originally promised because of changes in the contract once the boat reached their dock.
In no way is, this contract would not be affecting the financial issues at Burry's, because the reality is the contract that Burry's had with us as a department was for $1.5 million. It was due to be completed in April, and Burry's were paying close to $2.2 million. So I would take exception to the fact that any hardship, unfortunately, at this yard is being caused by transportation works.
Glenn Burry is the president of the company. He turned down an interview with CBC Today, but he said that the company was counting on the Gallipoli work, and now that that boat has been taken to St. John's, he has nothing in sight. Garrett Barry, CBC News, Clarenville.
You're training for something that you hope you never have to encounter, but you're prepared for it if you do.
It's a mandatory safety course for anyone who works in the offshore, a grueling day on the ocean and in the tank learning to survive at sea in case of disaster. I got to tag along for the ride. That story is coming up. Welcome back to Here and Now. Well, it's training that offshore workers must have but hope they'll never use. Learning to survive at sea in case of disaster. This province has seen its share of tragedies in the offshore with the Ocean Ranger and the crash of Cougar Flight 491. And since then, safety training has evolved to be as realistic as possible. But it's not just the trainees who are honing their skills. A partnership between two companies, Cougar Helicopters and Falk Safety Services, also helps the rescuers stay on top of their game. I spent the day as a trainee to see it all in action.
Attention all personnel, Dale Lyons speaking. We have a fire on board in the galley. All personnel, please report to your primary muster station.
For this course today, these are oil and gas workers, so general trades people or laborers right up to senior management or emergency response people, everybody in between. Anybody who works offshore has to go through this training at some point. So it's a class today of 12 and you're going to be joining them, so you're number 13.
Lucky 13?
Yeah, lucky number 13. Doing this training in a benign pool environment has its benefits, but if you really want to make the training meaningful and beneficial, then the best thing to do is try and recreate weather like we would experience in the North Atlantic. This pool, like some of the things that we can do in here is we can generate wind up to about 60 or 70 knots. Waves about a meter and a half in wave height. These are full range of sound effects, rain, or thunder, lightning, sounds to simulate helicopter noises or ships coming in, people calling for help. Whatever you can think of, we can basically do in here.
We're going to go from here up to the top where the lifeboats are.
So today the focus is on sea survival. We're preparing for the emergency, responding to alarms, abandoning the installation, then surviving at sea long enough to be rescued. We've created a number of scenario-based exercises, and they'll move to and board a lifeboat, a totally enclosed lifeboat. The lifeboat will lower to the water. We're going to tell them there's people in the water close to their location. Rescue a conscious and unconscious casualty from the water and bring them into the lifeboat. That'll be the end of scenario 1. After that, what we'll do is we'll move them back over to the side of the pool deck and we'll put them in the water and we'll just refresh some of the base skills that they already know. I will take them through some survival formations, so how to get together as a group and move away from danger, and then how to stop and stay together and rest to wait for rescue. After that, we'll move to the next scenario-based exercise, which is a skyscape or an escape chute exercise. So same thing, we'll feed some kind of problem to the group, fire offshore, something to that effect. So they'll move to the escape chute, we'll come down through the chute, and now that their skills are building through the morning, we'll introduce more weather effects, more conditions to them. What will happen then is when they get to the bottom of the escape chute, they'll get themselves organized, enter the water, swim a short distance to another life raft. They'll hear a helicopter. Once they hear a helicopter, that'll be their cue to pinpoint their location using some kind of simulated flare, and then we'll put a spotlight on them which will indicate they've been found, and that'll be the end of that scenario. From there, then we'll move to kind of worst case scenario. So worst case scenario would be nothing else is available and I've got to get off right now. So how would you do that? Ideally, you'd climb and get as close to the water as you could, but if need be, you jump. Jump from height. It's only about 12 feet, but that's enough for most people to make it kind of psychologically challenging. That'll be the end of the pool work. And then this afternoon we'll move to the ocean, and we'll tie that in with Cougar search and rescue guys, and they'll come and practice actually rescuing people from the water.
So this is our sea day. The training that we're doing here is just to survive at sea. So if there's anything that goes wrong where they're working, including, they were to ditch in the helicopter, all the way to if there was something to go wrong on the platforms that they're working on, surviving at sea. I'm stuck! Shows us how, I guess, the rescuers would do the rescue portion of sea survival. It's pretty cool to see that when they come down to the raft. It's pretty cool to have the helicopter over top of it. It's one thing for us to say it in the classroom of how it's going to happen, and another thing for them to see it on their sea day. You're training for something that you hope you never have to encounter, but you're prepared for it if you do. It's as close as most people want to get.
Days like today are important because you get to see other resources that you don't get to normally see. This aircraft here is not readily available to everybody to see because it's always on 24/7, 365 standby. Sort of puts maybe a sense of comfort in certain people that they know if if they had to abandon a rig installation or a vessel, you know, anywhere in the world, because this not only isolated to Newfoundland, then they can rest assured that the people coming out and are as well trained as they are in their mind based on their experience.
I hope they get to see what it's like for a helicopter to show up and not to panic. It gets loud, it gets really windy. Obviously you can see it as you get under that rotor wash. And there's going to be somebody coming down on the hook, someone's going to talk to you, someone's going to make you feel comfortable, saying, hey, we're here to come and grab you. So we do this on a weekly basis with Falk. We have a great team over there that helps us out, and we help each other out in that sense. So we get a lot out of it because our crew in the back and in the front, we get training done. We can keep our efficiency and our skills up.
It could be nerve-wracking for some people. You're, dangling from a cable, but it's pretty strong cable, So, and then to see that there's nothing to be afraid of, and for them to have a warm feeling that if something happens, we'll be there to recover them.
You can't afford to have a bad day. And the more we do this, the better we get, the better our skills get. So you got to keep those up.
Such intensive training, obviously very much needed, especially inside the facility though. It looked scary. Were you nervous at any point?
Well, I am terrified of heights, so jumping from that platform was very scary for me. But it's amazing how they can control the environment like that in there. So it was a jam-packed day for sure. For me, it was just a bit of fun, but of course for all the workers there, the stakes are much higher because you never know.
Well, congratulations, you did it.
Thanks.
You see it played? There's a lot of ice hockey guys can't play this.
This is not your neighborhood ball hockey. We'll take you to the World Championships happening this week in Mount Pearl.
It is brought to you by Take Charge Business Efficiency Program. Over 570 businesses have saved energy and taken charge of their bottom line. Find out how you can too.
And welcome back once again. Let's take a look at some nature video with a bit of a twist before we get to the weather with Colette.
Just have a look at this. Can you see what's there? It's a bird's nest in the wreath on the front door.
Must have been a surprise to discover it. Yep. The pictures are from Erin Kelly in Springdale.
Well, just look at them. They appear to be starlings, and we're told they should be flying any day now. Isn't that great?
I don't know. Does a really good-looking guy live there because he's always got chicks at his door?
Ba-dum-bum.
You know, somebody had to do it. Probably I shouldn't have. Sorry.
Anyway, thanks to Erin again for those pictures.
I like that. Anyways, so how's the weather looking?
Well, look at us, right? Almost possibly a record today. I think we'll probably just be shy of it once the official figures come out, but absolutely gorgeous out there still. A nice evening that we're heading into. We can have a look at just how it feels out there with the current temperatures. 18 degrees right now in Bonavista, 19 in St. John's, and Cape Race having a nice day today. It's 20 degrees this evening. So all kinds of things you can get outside and do because you're not having to worry about the weather conditions here. Having a look at Happy Valley Goose Bay there, 21 degrees for you folks in terms of that current temperature, and towards Nain it's 13 degrees at the moment. And these are a look at the winds, because sometimes you can have, you know, sunshine and nice temperatures, and then we're dealing with winds that aren't terribly strong. I know they've been a little bit gusty at times, some of that southwesterly flow towards St. Lawrence you've been feeling, but it's more of an easterly flow that we're getting here into St. John's, at least at the moment. They're going to be somewhat variable over the next 24 hours. We're going to see kind of a shift in our winds. But have a look at this. I'm even going to go on a broader perspective of our satellite and radar, and in particular the radar. This is a very broad ridge of high pressure that's in place. That stable air is what's giving all the sunshine. There are a couple of systems kind of, I won't even say on the doorstep, they still have a ride to get here. So that's what's setting us up for tonight. It does mean a fairly quiet night. We will see, because of the wind direction, some cloud building up here for the Avalon. But other than that, it's a great setup, as I alluded to earlier, just such a lovely setup for tomorrow where we're going to see quite a bit of sunshine. But let me walk you through, because we are going to be impacted by those other systems eventually. So this is just going to take you through as we're heading on into tonight, into tomorrow morning. So there's some of that cloud cover I was mentioning because of our wind direction. Looks still pretty good across Labrador, certainly across the island. And then it's as we get into Thursday morning, some cloud cover coming into western Labrador. Rain showers not too far behind, but also they become somewhat spread out here, not terribly well organized. This is late in the day on Thursday, okay? So by 8 p.m., sure, clouds are rolling across from west towards central parts of the island. The east still in the clear, so most of the day looks good. Those showers trying to make their way over towards eastern Labrador, and that's the setup. And I am going to tell you about the weekend, but you have to wait for that. When I come back, I'll do that. In the meantime, we're talking about overnight tonight. This is a look at your temperature. 7 for Labrador West, Happy Valley, Goose Bay, and through that region you're going to see about 9 degrees. 11 for western Newfoundland with the clear skies, central 9, and about 7 degrees. 7 to 8 we're going to drop down to for St. John's. And then tomorrow afternoon, you're going to have to deal with the fact that it's a little cooler than today. So we're not going to see the kind of temperatures we saw today as the winds turn a little bit more to the northeast. That's as we get into the later afternoon hours. For central parts of the island, 23 degrees. And for the west, it's 19. For Labrador, looking at a cooler day for Labrador West, 13. But really a decent day, even though the clouds will be increasing and showers on the way. We're looking at Labrador East going up to tomorrow a high of 21. Debbie, Caroline? Did you catch that?
Thanks so much, Colette. Now we have an update on a big international sports tournament. It's not in Russia, and it is not the World Cup.
No, it is the World Junior Ball Hockey Championship, which has just begun in Newfoundland, and Canada has a real shot at the title.
Here now's Peter Cowan checked things out at the Glacier in Mount Pearl.
These international championships have attracted some of the top ball hockey players from around the world, and this is a very different game than you normally associate with ball hockey. Nobody's moving the net out of the way every time a car comes by. Why is it being hosted in Newfoundland? Well, the sport is pretty strong here, and they're hoping that tournaments like this one will encourage more young people to get involved.
It's going to be a big boost to the sport of ball hockey after seeing this. A lot of people don't really know what it is. They think it's street hockey. They think it's just picking your net up and going out and playing. This is a very highly skilled sport and very, very structured in how it's played. People are going to be really surprised watching it.
The Canadian under-18 team had a good start to the tournament. They beat Switzerland first thing this morning. It was the very first game. The next game that Canada plays will be this evening. There are a lot of Newfoundlanders that are on Team Canada. They credit the fact that the sport is popular in this province.
I guess the Newfoundland heritage is really big in Newfoundland, so I've always grown up watching it and just started playing it. I'm an ice hockey player as well, so I just came along with it.
Many of the ball hockey players are also ice hockey players. They use the off-season as a chance to work on their conditioning.
Ice hockey, it's a lot more gliding and reading the plays and that. Like ball hockey, I find you gotta always be looking around, no stopping, because you can't be flat-footed a lot, like everything. So basically the game of ball hockey is more conditioned too. Like you gotta be able to run for the full game, and that's basically the major change I find.
This is the first time Canada has hosted the under-20 championships, and the team here is hoping they'll be able to bring home a gold. Peter Cowan, CBC News, Mount Pearl.
So I'm here at the Botanical Gardens with this lovely girl, Trot, who's looking for her forever home. And what do the two have to do with one another? Yes, she's pretty as a flower, but I'm going to tell you another reason that we're here.
Welcome back once again, and as we saw before the break, Colette, you were out and about today, and I know you're an animal lover, particularly dogs.
I
You
am.
met a new one today in a very beautiful location.
I did, and also it was an excuse to get out there. If I can find an excuse on a beautiful day to be outside, right?
Go for it.
Yeah, for sure. And it was a beautiful location at the Botanical Gardens, and getting to meet a lovely dog that is available for adoption. But there's a reason as well that we were there. They're going to have their dog days of summer tomorrow night between 5 and 8, and the gardens are literally going to the dogs. Come on, sweet angel. Come on. Come on, girl. Well, she wants to explore the nature.
We've been thinking about dogs in the garden for a long time, but it is a botanical garden, so the plant material in here is very sensitive. So we can't sort of let dogs in on a regular basis, but we thought, this one time, let's allow them to come in. So we thought about the dog days of summer, which is right now, that time of year when the dog star, Sirius, rises with the sun. And so we decided what a great time to let the dogs in. So we'll provide some treats for them, some water bowls around the garden, but we certainly would appreciate the dog owners to take care of any things that the dogs leave behind, which of course they would.
Come on. Good girl. I noticed Trot and I share something in common that we both love. I love pink, and she's got this lovely collar. Hi, Trot. Hi. So tell us a little bit about her.
So she's been in our care since May 15th. She's only been up for adoption for maybe a month, not quite a month, a little bit on and off. She did have some issues where she did like to eat everything you'd put in her kennel and that sort of thing. She was a retired dog from Labrador. She was used for sled dogs.
So for how many years would she have been a sled dog?
Her whole life, pretty much. So as old as she...
A off then.
She's the oldest sled dog that we've gotten from Labrador. Normally they come down between the ages of 1 and 3, because typically we get them if they don't do well as a sled dog. So clearly she was good at her job.
Yeah, she's like me, I guess. She has a bit of a likes to eat everything problem.
Yeah, well, the only thing is she wasn't always like that when she came to us. Unfortunately, the shelter can cause some stress on any dog or any cat. I'm hoping when she finds a good, trusting home that she'll get out of that completely. But once you work with her and are consistent with her, she really comes around. Come on, Trot.
It's going to be a real nice inclusive thing to kind of get those dog owners, because we do often get people come to the garden, unfortunately, with their dogs, expecting to walk through, and we unfortunately have to send them away. But for this Thursday, from 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock, they can come on in, so we're really happy about that.
And it is your twilight. Thursdays are the twilight.
Yep.
It's the one night you're open later.
Every Thursday for the summer months we'll be open from 5 to 8, because the garden generally closes at 5, but on Thursdays we remain open until 8. And so we have various different themes throughout the garden. We have booze and botanies, which is basically an opportunity for people to come and taste some botanically infused drinks and then get a tour of the garden, so that's a lot of fun.
How did I miss that one? When was that?
Yeah, there was one last week, but there's 2 more. There's one last week focused on cocktails, and there's another one that will focus on wine, and another one that will focus on beer. Our whole focus is to get people out in the garden at night, because the evening time and the night time is a very special time in the garden. It becomes a kind of a really quiet or contemplative place, and a really special time in the garden.
And Tim, not to put you on the spot or anything, but you say you don't at the moment have a dog, and you know we do have this lovely dog Trot here from
Trot.
the SPCA. So you know if you want to spend a little time later getting to know her, that'll be just fun.
I didn't meet Trot up in the visitor center when you first came, but I'm sure Trot will find a wonderful home, because from what I've seen already, a beautiful dog.
Yeah, beautiful dog. I'm the same way. I already have a foster dog.
It's tough though,
it's tempting.
because if you like dogs, they're just beautiful and they bring so much to our lives, you know, and I know that my dog brought so much to me and my family. There's a lot of dogs out there that need homes, and you know, I think the first place that people should look is there before they go anywhere else. And
adopt, don't shop.
Absolutely. There you go. Nice motto.
Some people don't have the energy for the walks that dogs need, and often you think of a husky needing a ton of exercise, but she's worked so hard her whole life that she's a little lower key there. She just wants to relax in her retirement, chill.
For sure.
Right? So she won't need that kind of exercise. She'll need supervision in other ways and a lot of attention and love.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Is that what you need? Just some love, a nice loving family? Yeah.
Yeah. She loves her belly rubs.
Yes.
Break my heart.
I know. I have a foster dog who loves her belly rubbed as well. She just, I say she should go out with the fire department and help them do drills, because she'll drop and roll anywhere you're at. She's not shy about it. Stop, drops, and rolls. But you know, something I want to mention is the foster dog I have is an older dog, and sometimes people don't want to adopt older dogs for different reasons. And Trot is a bit older, but she's worked so hard her whole life. She really deserves to have a nice retirement, and she just has so much love to give, and is just looking for someone who kind of take care of her and give her those belly rubs she needs.
And older dogs have their benefits too, because a lot of them are trained already, so you don't have to worry about, you know, crazy puppies running around.
Exactly. You know, huskies, like I was saying in the piece, they need a ton of walking. She's like, you have to coax her to walk. She's more like, let's just hang out. So it's really,
If you
really
didn't
sweet.
already have a foster dog, I think you would have another.
Yes, I already have a dog. I have a foster dog, so it's like, yeah, I'm kind of cut off, but I'll meet them anytime that I can. And again, this is tomorrow night at the Botanical Gardens, and it's from 5 to 8. So they are open through the season 5 to 8 on Thursdays, but this is the only night that dogs are allowed to come.
Okay.
Okay. Well,
Thanks for
you.
that. Still a beautiful evening in St. John's. That's the live camera shot from the rooms. And look what's leaving.
Yep, there's a ship heading out the Narrows. Lovely night for a sail.
Time to meet our young athletes of the day. This is 4-year-old McKinley Powell.
And when she's not participating in ballet or tap, she enjoys skating with her Can Skate group.
Congratulations to you, McKinley.
And our second athlete of the day, this would be Luke Kettle, who's from St. Lawrence. He loves sports of all kinds.
And he plays hockey for the Marystown Mariners novice division, playing mostly forward.
He also loves playing soccer, softball, and ball hockey. So congratulations to you, Luke. So it almost felt like we had some of that massive heat that they've been experiencing from Ontario into Quebec and the Maritimes today, right? Not quite.
I like this heat.
Yeah.
I don't want it too hot.
Me too. Montreal is really suffering.
Oh, they certainly are. And, you know, we'll go ahead and have a look at what's going on with the temperatures out there. But speaking of Montreal, I had mentioned yesterday they were attributing 6 deaths to the heat. And it is that serious situation. Today in southern Quebec, that number has gone up to around 16 degrees now, officials say. So we're certainly not making light of that heat, but doesn't that make us lucky? We're the ones who should be bragging about the fabulous weather that we have, just kind of flirting with those upper 20s and flirting towards getting towards 30 degrees, right? And now the temperature is cooling down quite a bit. We're at 17 into St. John's after that high earlier today, unofficially around 28 degrees. Gander at 21. You see some of that extreme heat, though. at this time into the evening, they're still, I mean, I know that's a time change, but they're still getting later in their day. It's 34 degrees into Montreal, and the humidex is in the mid 40s. And so that's why we get into these kinds of situations where it becomes so dangerous, especially when it goes on for several days. It is looking like that extreme heat there, if you are going to be doing any traveling, so you know, should be breaking sometime around Thursday into Friday. It doesn't mean it won't still be warm there, but seeing that break, it'll take another day beyond that likely for the Maritimes if you're traveling in that direction. For us, just having a look as we look forward to what we can expect. High pressure in place for us into tonight and tomorrow. So most of the day lovely, but then as we get towards Thursday into the evening, the clouds starting to roll in into the evening hours coming across the island as well. There'll be some showers moving in here, some heavier amounts you can see for the northern peninsula. That's more so Thursday night and into Friday morning. But as the system continues to work its way through, as we're heading through the day, Friday, we're still looking at least some spotty showers, and we'll have that possibility of precipitation, quite likely really, for southern parts of the Avalon and certainly the south and the west coast. And then into the weekend we go, and we do see a bit of a clearing trend for at least a good portion of the island, but you'll notice still hanging on that chance as we're going into Saturday morning of some rain showers and also scattered showers across Labrador. Then as Saturday wears on, we begin to see things clearing out so that it does seem to improve, but there's a chance of precipitation in there. You know, earlier I had a little bit of, I was testing you. I had a map in here that said Wednesday afternoon. Well, did you catch that? It was, I meant to say Thursday afternoon. So that was the test. So let's just show you that forecast again for Newfoundland West. 19 degrees for you as we head into tomorrow. 23 central, 17 in the east, 21 Labrador east, and 13 for western parts of Labrador. And a look at your 5-day for St. John's. We're looking at that 18 degrees for tomorrow. After that, 21 rain showers again, likely Friday night into Saturday, as well as we head into the weekend, seeing some cooler conditions, slightly cooler with those upper teens and also those upper teens for tomorrow, and just a chance of seeing some scattered precipitation in there as well. Debbie?
Thanks, Colette. Well, now to Brooklyn, New York, where incredible surveillance video captures a moment that could have ended in disaster for two elderly women. Oh, wow. First, we have to tell you that they were taken to hospital, but their injuries were not serious, unbelievably. The women were chatting outside an office when they were hit by that 7-meter sign that fell off the front of the building. One woman was trapped. The other fell down to the sidewalk. Immediately, people rushed in to help before firefighters arrived. Inspectors later found that the second floor of the building was being renovated without a proper permit.
Very lucky indeed. Well, RCMP in British Columbia say they've located the bodies of 3 people who went over a waterfall near Squamish yesterday. Now they're working to recover their remains. It happened at a popular tourist spot in Shannon Falls Provincial Park. That's about 60 kilometers north of Vancouver. A search and rescue official says the 3 fell into the water near the top of the falls yesterday afternoon.
Information we were told by friends that were there is that the people, one gal was at the water's edge and slipped in, and her boyfriend and then another friend attempted to save her, and the other friend said that they saw the 3 people go over out of view from the one pool that they were at.
The bodies are believed to be in one of the pools beneath the falls, but it's a difficult and dangerous spot to access. Families have been notified, but the names of the deceased have not yet been released.
And here we go. It's our chance to guess where in Newfoundland or Labrador might this photo have been taken. Beautiful look at the sunset there. You guys have a guess?
Give us a hint. Island or Labrador?
Island.
Okay, I don't know.
The answer.
visiting couple from Australia had quite the experience hiking in Alberta recently.
Stay there, Barry. Don't follow us. Don't come towards us. I don't want to use my bear spray.
Dale Boshoff and his wife Jessica were on Mount Rundle between Canmore and Banff when this happened last month.
Oh my goodness, they had bear sprays you could hear, and they talked to the bear and stayed together, and it turns out all the bear wanted to do was use the trail. The CBC spoke with the couple yesterday.
Dale got his phone out. I was thinking, this is the minute we're going to die, and Dale cares about Facebook and Instagram. And now obviously it's pretty cool that he recorded it.
Clearly, it was a once-in-a-lifetime experience for the couple who are set to return to Australia at the end of July.
Everyone's going to think in Australia, their friends, oh, that's what happens when you go to Canada. Right. A look at our picture of the day. This one was a special one because the folks who sent it to us, it's Holiday Hill, Blaketown. This is on Crooked Pond. And they sent it to us to let us know they were getting married this past weekend there, and that they had good weather, at least for the ceremony, which they were happy about.
Excellent.
And oh, whoops, is that my own foster dog, Tia? I snuck in there as a picture.
That's sweet. Thanks, everyone, for being with us. See you tomorrow.